Farmhouse that will be approaching was the birthplace of Henry Ford. He was born here in July of 1863. The farm was located just outside of Detroit, comprised of 70 acres, and the family raised sheep. You're welcome to stop by the farmhouse. You can ride outside and see what life was like for him. Again, for your safety, please remain seated while the train is in motion. Keep your head, arms, legs inside the cars at all times. Parents, if you board with any little children, please place yourselves on the outside of the row. If that is not practical, make sure they're held or easily within your reach. You gonna be okay? All right.
I was just playing off of your words.
Yep. Well, that's the youngster. We'll say goodbye to Mary Ann, station master here at Smith Creek, for getting us out on time. We now begin our journey to the front at Firestone Station. If you ever have a chance, stop by our Smith Creek train depot. It was built in 1858 by Grand Trunk Railroad. First stop on its way from Port Huron down to Detroit. Even though it was only 8 miles from town, it was in the countryside, so the station master and family were allowed to live at the depot and conduct railroad operations, which sometimes was 24 hours a day. On the right, you'll see an assortment of boxcars that were used to haul freight and merchandise across the United States. Also down by the water tower on the right, you'll see our Fairlane car. This was Henry Ford's personal car that he used when he was traveling across the United States. On the left is our Detroit, Toledo, Milwaukee Roundhouse. This comes from Marshall, Michigan, built in 1884 to service and maintain steam locomotives. We carry on that tradition today as a working roundhouse with the 3 coal-fired locomotives and diesel electric that we operate here during the season. The main building, though, is still closed to the public, but you're welcome to walk by the front, look through the doors to see what is going on inside. Just past the roundhouse, you'll see the backside of Liberty Craftworks and our sawmill. This is the Tripp Sawmill from Tipton, Michigan. We'll now be approaching the Firestone farm. This is home to Harvey Firestone, founder of the Firestone Rubber and Tire Company. Welcome to stop by the farmhouse, go inside, or look in and check out the barn to see all the livestock that we raise here on the farm. The far pasture next to the house, you can check out all the baby lambs that were born here this spring. Now, as we come into Firestone, I ask everybody to please look about you. Make sure you have all of your belongings as well as cell phones. And then, if you would, remain seated until we come to a complete stop. Once the brakes are set, the engineer will blast the whistle, letting you know that it is safe to exit on the right-hand side. Please wait for that whistle. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to Greenfield Village and the Greenfield Village Railroad. For your safety, please remain in your seats while the train is in motion. Keep your head, arms, legs, and feet inside the cars at all times. Parents, if you boarded with any little ones, please place yourselves on the outside of the row. If that is not practical, make sure they're held or easily within your reach. 728, 808, Edison, and Highball. We'll say goodbye to Ben and Deb here for getting us out on time. We now begin our journey to Susquehanna Station in our Porches and Parlors district. The farmhouse that we'll be approaching was the birthplace of Henry Ford. He was born here in July of 1863. The farm was located just outside of Detroit, comprised of 70 acres, and the family raised sheep. You're welcome to stop by the farmhouse, go inside. You can see what life was like for Henry growing up here as a young boy. Now, if you look to your left, just past the farmhouse, you can look down on our main street. Here you'll find the Wright Cycle Shop, Wright Home, Ford Motor Company, Model T Rides, Mary Cohen's Millinery, Heinz Home, and our 1913 Herschel Spillman Carousel. We also have our frozen custard ice cream stand located here. This was Thomas Edison's laboratory in New Jersey. He's credited with over 1,000 patents for this facility. You're welcome to stop by, stroll the grounds, and even go inside. Now, if you look to your left across the street, the yellow building is the Sarah Jordan boarding house. This is where all the single young men that worked for Edison would stay and live. It was one of the first few buildings he had electrified. We're now approaching the Eckley Bridge. This is our gateway into the Porches and Parlors district. From Susquehanna Station, you can go up the hill into Noah Webster's home. He is credited with giving us our first American dictionary that took over 25 years to complete. Or you can stroll down Maple Lane and see all of the homes we have here in the village. You can even go into our Susquehanna Plantation. Comes from Tidewater, Maryland. Originally comprised of 700 acres, and in 1838 their principal crops were corn and tobacco. As we come into Susquehanna, we can all say hi to Bill, station master here. And I ask everyone to please remain in your seats until we come to a complete stop. Once the whistle sounds, it will be safe to exit on the left-hand side. Please wait for that whistle. For those of you who just joined us, welcome to the Greenfield Village Railroad. Once again, for your safety, please remain seated while the train's in motion. Keep your head, arms, legs, and feet inside the cars at all times. If you're boarded with any little children, parents, please place yourselves on the outside of the row. If that is not practical, make sure they're held or easily within your reach. We'll say so long to Bill here at Susquehanna. We now begin our journey around the village to the north side at Smith Creek. We're passing by our Susquehanna Plantation, which came from northern Maryland. We're now approaching our Cape Cod windmill. This was built in 1649 and is the last known original structure of its kind left in the United States. If you ever want to try colonial living, our Daggett farmhouse next to it predates the American Revolutionary War. It was built in 1754. If you ever have a chance, stop by. You can go inside. They'll be happy to show you what life was like during our colonial times. You can even go into their vegetable garden and see what they're growing as food for the farm this summer. Anybody happen to notice the turkeys that were sitting over on the far fence in the shade? The locomotive pulling us today is a 1932 Edison. This was built by Mr. Ford in honor of his very best friend, Thomas Edison. This was constructed at the Rouge Complex. Back then it was the northern extension for his Detroit, Toledo, and Ironton Railroad, so it had a vast repair shop for steam locomotives. We're now approaching our nature reserve. This is over 20 acres of pristine forest that have been allowed to go untouched by human hands. Right now what our engineer is doing is called a running blowdown. This was standard procedure on all operating steam locomotives. This was the easiest way of eliminating any sediment that might be forming in the boiler. As we go into the nature reserve, this will give you an idea of what it was like to travel across the United States in the early days of the railroads. Before that time, please keep your hands inside the car. You don't want to be taking leaves home that you're going to regret later on. This We're now approaching Walnut Grove. This is our activities field during the season. It's also home during the summer to our two historic baseball teams, the La-Di-Da's and the Nationals. They play here on Saturdays and Sundays. They follow the 1867 baseball rules, and back then, gloves had not been invented yet. If the ball was hit in your direction, you had to try and catch it barehanded. From here, you can also see the backsides of Cotswold Cottage, the Giddings, Webster, and Frost homes. We're now coming up to our Henry Ford Academy. To attend, you must be a resident of Wayne County. It is done on the lottery system, so if your name is drawn, you're allowed to attend here grades 9 through 12 for free. 9th grade starts at the academy next to the museum. The main building here is for grades 10 and 11. Now, as we slowly go around the turn, you'll find 3 railroad cars that have been combined into 3 large classrooms. This is where the seniors finish out their final year. Next we'll be going by our Swanee Lagoon. This is only used now for flood control here in the village. As we climb the hill towards Smith Creek, if you look to your left just past the stone building, you will see the Martha Mary Chapel. This is built by Mr. Ford to honor his mother and mother-in-law. Next to it is our Taste of History, offering a wide variety of food, served cafeteria style. They will still be serving hot lunches until 3 p.m. today. Now as we come into Smith Creek, this can be your exit point to go 2 blocks over to Main Street. Here you'll find the carousel, Model T rides, or another block over you can go into Town Hall. Down Junction you can walk the front of the Roundhouse, or to Liberty Craft Works to watch our artisans creating glass, tin, printing, pottery, weaving, and carding of wool to be made into threads. Now as we come in, we can say hi to Kaylee and Mary Ann, station masters here. And again, I ask everybody to please remain seated until we come to a complete stop. Once the whistle sounds, it will be safe to exit on the left-hand side. Please wait for the whistle. Also at this time, Conductor Mike will be taking over for a couple turns. Farmhouse that we'll be approaching was the birthplace of Henry Ford. He was born here in July of 1863. The farm is located just outside of Detroit, comprised of 70 acres, and the family